So once again, Tyrone and fantastic Negrito. I'm Nick Harcourt. Great to see you guys.
Absolutely.
We just ran the keynote, which we recorded a couple of days ago, and now we're here live, and we have people hanging out. And I'm hoping some people are going to ask a couple of questions in a moment's time. Once I start seeing those, I will begin to ask them of you. But while we're waiting for those, let me know what you've been doing today. Xavier, fantastic Negrito. You just came in and said you've been planting onions today.
Yes, I've been planting on my farm. It's called Revolution Plantation. And yeah, I've been out there. I got 1,000 torpedo onion plants. And I've just been, planting them with children. Because, get your hands in the soil, and that's therapeutic. And so, yeah, that's what my morning's been about. How about you guys?
Tyrone.
I was doing the same thing, actually. I spent some time with my family. I was with my nephews hanging out, at 2 and 3. So it was,
wow.
It was a nice break. It was a nice break in the day to just hang with them. The innocence of children is just, it's a beautiful thing, man. It's incredible. So whenever I can get around them and my mother and my dad, my immediate family is really small. So to hang around family is really cool. But yeah, that was it. And then work calls, all types of stuff, the usual. But, legacy building.
I love that.
So how are we feeling? It's Wednesday. It's 7 days after the election. And the conversation that we had that just ran was a couple of days after the election. Tyrone, as somebody who's working in the financial world, what are things looking like? I mean, what are things looking like in the financial end of things right now with this uncertainty?
Well, what's funny is there's these sayings on Wall Street, right, where the market doesn't like uncertainty, but it likes gridlock, right? So they like the fact that Biden may be elected, but he wouldn't get anything done because of the Senate. So you saw the stock market go up, and there's a whole thing there. Then you have the vaccine announcement come behind that, right? And there are conspiracy theorists are saying if Trump wouldn't, if he didn't win, would they have done that or whatever? The most important thing for me is this, and I think anybody that knows me knows where I'm going. Every time the stock market hits new highs, wealth, income inequality in this country grows. And we need to address that. And I think, and also what you saw is Pfizer makes this announcement. The CEO of Pfizer sells $5 million of stock. So what I want people to understand is same gang, right? It's that nothing has changed. We need to make sure, right, as Xavier was saying, we got to hold folks accountable now. Everyone has voted. Everyone has picked a spot of where they want to be. Now, as I was saying in the video that I posted the other day, 2/3 of people went out and voted. Fantastic. But what about the third at the bottom, right? I hope you went into that booth and you voted. Some of what you voted for was for the third at the bottom, right? The people that are struggling mightily to live, right? Just simply live, not for everything that we are lucky to have, but just live, basic necessities. There's a third of the country now that no matter who's going to sit on high that have been forgotten for decades, we need to turn inward and go get those people.
I agree with that.
Can we relax?
No.
I say no.
No.
Can't.
Nope. I mean, again, I have people asking me, well, is Biden really the president? Like, is it real? Right. And I enjoyed all of, the salubrious and all of it was amazing. But I'm like, there's a reality here. Change is difficult, right? So
my feeling on the election is that that where we are, this is kind of uncharted, unprecedented territory. I mean, you have a regime that was embracing this neo-fascist, totalitarianist kind of ideology. And besides that being an extreme narcissist, I think it's what's going on is pretty nefarious. You think about the second wall they built around around the White House and the firing of the Secretary of State, and then this morning the shakeup
Can you hear me?
Yes, I think the shakeup at the Pentagon. I think, as I said, this is dubious, nefarious, and people should be really careful and keep paying attention to what's going on, because it's kind of uncharted territory. And then you have the Mitch McConnell going to. This is, for me, I'm 52, and this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable what I'm witnessing. But it's the kind of thing that we, as a kid, in the 80s or even 90s, we read about other countries. And we're flirting with this kind of, if not dictatorship idealism, we're definitely flirting with it. It's a bit concerning.
So we got a couple of other people jumped into the room here now, and we're also got some attendees. If you guys want to ask some questions, type them in. We'll bring them to the fore. But obviously, I see Jim and Connor and Linda is here as well. Jim, first up, amazing job on this whole thing today. Congratulations. As we're sort of coming towards the end of it, we've got Tyrone and Fantastic Negrito in here. I know that you had an opportunity to look at the keynote before today. You got any questions that come up for you out of it?
Xavier, I've become a huge fan. I love what you do, and I love how you talk. And thanks, Nick. I think all the work that you did on this was amazing, right? Like the live music came out really well. Yeah, I guess my question would be, we're in this weird time still, right? Where George Will, the keynote who kicked off, was kind of a conservative political commentator. He said, having lots of voter interest is not necessarily a good thing. Like you look at the times where there's been the highest voter interest in history. One of the times where the most people voted in history, Weimar, Germany, early 1930s. And
Scary.
the reason, it's a little scary, right? Like the reason people are super interested in voting in really high numbers are when the stakes are really high, when there's real things being determined. And so there's that end of it. And then the other end of it to me is it seems like there's this total disconnect between most people in the US, half the population is hand to mouth, and then the wealthy side of the US who has no idea what that is. And so I guess my question to you is, do you feel like you have a role to play in that, through your music, and how do you do that, or how do you think about that?
Well, I want to say first, thank you very much for having us here. And absolutely, I started the journey of Fantastic Negrito 5-6 years ago by a middle-aged guy, and I was like, you know what? I need to do something for the community I live in. I need to do something for my kids. I need to be an example, and I need to have a message. And I knew that the normal corporate way of, executives make decisions, that I would be completely non-attractive to them. A middle-aged guy who wears these kind of shirts and, and has this music that doesn't fit into.
That's a great look you have going on tonight, by the way.
Thank you. But yeah. That I needed to go out into the streets and let people decide. I went to train stations. I went to coffee shops. I stood in front of the donut shop at 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm walking around at night with a guitar. People thought I was on drugs, actually. I would see people and I'd just be playing for hours, and I'd see people that knew me. They'd kind of walk the other way, like, man, this guy lost it, man. He's a midlife crisis. He didn't, he's out here, busking at 45 with kids, and I felt like that was an amazing way to connect with people. The people are my record company. When I won my first Grammy and I got to the Grammys, they were like, "Hey, what's your label?" Looking at me like very eagerly. And I was like, "Label? No, it's no label. It's just me. I was just playing on the street." And I think that it's an excellent testament to really the American dream. And, some of the greatest emails and messages I get, even from kids that are in their 20s, like, "Man, like, thank you." And I saw that you did it, and with your senior citizen pain. So I think that anybody can do it. Anything and everything can be achieved if we believe in it, if we're willing to surround ourselves with the people that can help us execute it. So yeah, and all my music is social commentary, from the last days of Oakland, Please Don't Be Dead, to Have You Lost Your Mind Yet. Always. I write my songs, the people I have in mind are my kids. I'm talking to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's on the money. Yeah.
What is the American dream? I mean, I'm an immigrant.
Right.
I mean, I got it easy because I'm a white guy, but I came here 30 years ago, and at the time I felt like anything was possible. Again, I'm a white male, but I came to a place that I watched on television for all of my life before I got here, and it gave me a sense that anything was possible.
Well, I think that, let's be fair, as much as we beat up on this country too, we got to be fair to it too, is that I'm the son of an immigrant. And my dad was born in 1905. He had me when he was 63. My mama was 30. Anything can happen, you know what I mean? So I think, President Obama, he was a black dude that just came out of nowhere. Like, who is this dude? Anything is possible. But I think when we say anything is possible, the horrible things are possible too, and the most amazing things. And that's the spectrum of America. But I think the dream is that anything and everything can be achieved. But the thing that we have to stop doing, and maybe Tyrone can help here, is stop standing on the necks and the backs of people while we achieve our dreams, and then taking a shit on them from the tower.
Yeah. No, I think what you said is we could have logged off right after that. You said the people of my record company.
Yes.
Right. And the dynamics of what you're saying there, and the power of what that means, of the American dream now is putting the hands of people's of future back into their hands, the power of possibility. That's what America was. My dad came to this country from Guyana with the possible, what can I do here that I can't there? So the American dream now is putting back into the hands of people their destiny, giving them back the best for your family, the best for your community. We need to give people their power back. We've stripped them of it, whether it was through technology, whether it was through politics, whether it was through finance, right? We live in a capitalist society where the majority of people do not speak the language of money. Money is a language. Very few people are fluent in it in a capitalist society. We need to give people their power back. We need to empower children at 3 years old, when they can start speaking financial terms, to start to speak the language of a society that they are going to grow into, where they are going to compete against generational wealth. That is not fair. But if I speak the language, when I do come across someone with generational wealth, now we can vibe, we can lingo. I know what you're saying. I know what those things are. I may not have it, but I can speak it. But if I do not speak it, I do not see it, I am not from it, I cannot attain it. And then on top of that, when I do even try to learn, you keep me at arm's distance. Now I'm a permanent underclass. That needs to change. We need to give people back the power of where they are. And by the way, people need to understand this. There are some people, like my parents and a million others, that are okay with just enough. They are okay with enough. They are okay with their job at a small business. They are okay making sure their families are fed and farming. They just don't want it stripped from them. They just don't want their dignity taken from them. I'm okay with this. I don't need my Porsche to match the color of my private jet. I just don't want my dignity stripped from me. So the American dream now is putting the destiny of people's lives back into their hands and say, go live it. You're safe, you're secure, you're fed, you're educated equally. That's not happening right now.
mayors, governor, President Tyrone Ross. Woo! We love it.
I'm in. Tyrone, how much of that to you is building from within versus like building bridges to that knowledge and connections into other parts of society? Because to me that's really interesting, right? Like you see like Live Aid or one of these shows, and they raise all this money and they send all this grain to Africa, and it feels like that, right? Whereas what I would like to see is people getting into the local communities, to know people who are different from you, connect, go understand what the world really is, go figure out what you can really do to help.
People talk about now, again, it's the power of getting proximate. Here's what I would do right away. If say with Tyrone, here's a magic wand, you can do whatever you want. Here's what I would do right now. People talk about the electoral college, the popular vote, the term limits, this, that, whatever. If you want to be president of this country, you must take a tour of every single solitary inner city and rural community in this country. I don't care about the electoral votes. I don't care. You need to sit in the squalor of the people, smell the funk of their struggle in rural communities where 90% of the children are underfed. Go to the inner cities and see the infrastructure that isn't there. See people taking 4 buses and then have to walk the rest of the way for minimum wage. Go to the north, go to the south, go to the mid. Like, don't worry about polls. Don't worry. You must go there. You must commune there, break bread, talk to the people. Don't just go to the black church and the barbershop. Go everywhere. And I think every state, and not until you visit every state and have seen the conditions, not only the good part, by the way, but see the dichotomy of the rich and the poor in New Jersey, right? Connecticut is the richest state in the union.
Really?
Richest state in the union. 22% of the children in Connecticut right now cannot log on to school. They needed 60,000 computers for kids. They did not have it.
It's crazy.
How is it possible? In the richest state in the country. And then folks would actually run and talk about the billions of dollars raised when there are children in the richest state in America that can't get online.
Greed.
Let me bring in a couple of questions that are coming in here right now. Talking about widening financial inequity, is there such a thing as good philanthropy from billionaires like Bezos, Gates, and such like, or should they and their corporations just simply pay more in taxes?
Well, I say pay more taxes, but he's the money expert.
Well, see, that's the thing. And this is why people's like, oh, Tyrone for politics. Like, if I ran, I would be considered a radical, right? But I don't think so. But I think I would be. Here's the thing with that. I'm not here to damn billionaires because all of they did was rape and pillage a system that allowed them to accumulate the type of wealth that they have. So I like to address the problem just as big, right? With the solution is just as big. So here's what I say. Again, the same thing. Bill Gates, all these folks, they seem to be givers. They're not thoughtful givers. They're giving in their interest. But when you can start to give and not need an ROI or a KPI or an advisory board and simply say, give right here. Perfect example. Mike Bloomberg said whether he won or not the presidency, he was dedicating, I forget the number, but it was an inordinate amount of number, billions of dollars to inner cities in America because he understood the lack of literacy rates. He understood the poverty and everything else. He said, I have to commit this money. But he did not commit that money until he got around the gentleman, I can't think of his name now, who runs the school in Harlem. It wasn't until he got around him and he showed Michael Bloomberg, this is where you need to put your money. So we need more billionaires exposed and the people around them to say, how much more are you going to give to Harvard? How much more are you going to give to this endowment in these places? When there is a school right now that for a tenth of what you're spending here could be there. So I'm not here to damn billionaires. I think we need them, but what we need now is we need to raise children that will be empathetic billionaires, children that will be empathetic politicians, children that will be empathetic leaders and CEOs. But unfortunately, when the system, again, go back to speaking the language, if all I learn is money, but I never learn to speak love, there are two dichotomies. But when I speak love and money together, now I get purpose, and that empathy goes into building up communities from the ground up, enriching the soil. Billionaires have the ability to do that, but they have no one around them to keep the proverbial light on the real issues.
Let me ask another question that's coming up here. You just mentioned the soil. It sort of brings us back to fantastic Negrito, and Linda just asked this question a little while ago. I didn't get to it. She said that she tried farming this year, a small raised veggie stand, but beyond basil, it was a complete disaster with the rest. We need some tips. Can you give us some urban farming tips?
First of all, it's all about your soil. Everything's your soil. It's just like Tyrone was talking about how, we're going to teach children the language of money. I mean, everything, it's where you're coming from. If you're coming from healthy soil, and that soil is powerful in nutrients, then it's going to feed the plants. I learned more growing weed than I learned anything in my life about people. Listen, you got the plants, you got the soil. Take care of the plants, just like you take care of people. Give them light, give them love, give them space, give them food. That means feeding that soil. That means composting, making sure that the soil has enough nutrients. Those plants or people grew up to be very productive. Man, when I used to harvest, I'd be like, I got pounds. Man, I got pounds. And I could go sell them for $4,000 a pound back then. But if I was like feeling a little bit lazy, not really feeling like I should pay attention to what's going on, my eyes are somewhere else, my heart was somewhere else, that plant, just like that person, at the end of that cycle would not produce for me, would not support me. So I learned looking at growing marijuana plants, because you can fail easily growing some herb, and all your money will be gone. That when I pay attention to those plants, just like these kids that we pass every day, just like these neighborhoods that we call bad neighborhoods, just like these schools, as Tyrone said last week, that we don't want to send our kids to. All those things, they're going to come see us. They're going to come see us, but they're going to rob us. They're going to jack us. I used to be one of those kids out there right here in Oakland. So the minute that people paid attention to my soil, and I want to answer her, then I blossomed, and I became a productive part of society that could grow up and give back. Look, I was in reform schools. They told me, you're going to be nothing. I'm going to see you on the corner. I remember teachers telling me that, but when I found the other people who actually invested in my soil, man, it was amazing. And I wanted to add one more thing about the presidency. When Tyrone was talking, I feel like this. One of the other requirements should be this. Man, you better stay married to the same woman for 20 years, because I'm married, and there ain't nothing harder than that shit, and nothing more beautiful, too. So the thing is, getting along with the opposition and learning how to navigate that shit is so important. People think I'm joking. You got to show that you can stay married to the same person for 20 years, and then you can be president of the United States. And the last point is, you said you're a white guy, and I just took my note. I'm like, man, you know what? There's no bigger victims of white supremacy than poor white people.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
They're the real victims. I need to go on the floor to all the poor white people and go hug them and tell them it's going to be all right, because ain't nobody pimped poor white people like
there's a book called White Trash that should be required reading. Yeah. And it is about exactly that. And this is why I say the one thing you don't want to be in America is poor. But the white poor and underclass in this country are treated just like niggers. And I have to say it, because That's where you get all the terms from, right? And it's in the book of what they call them, scallywags, everything else. That is all. When you go back to the slave age, the poor whites, they treated just like us, right? Worse. But again, they had worse. But eventually, right, they had the privilege of white skin. But right now in America, again, if you are poor, right, and I'm so glad you said that, because two things I don't like. I've been doing these talks over and over again, and I'm tired of hearing white men say, well, I'm just a white guy. You're not exempt from life because you're white. Life is going to punch you in the face too. But here's what happens. If a poor white kid, girl, boy, family, whatever, sees you walk into a room and you can speak to their condition, white man, white woman, I don't care. I don't care about the color of my life preserver. I need help. I don't care. If I'm dying, I'm not going to stop and, oh, you're a white man, or you're a Republican, don't touch me, right? We need everybody. And yes, privilege is only a problem when you do not acknowledge it. But when you acknowledge it and say, yeah, I got white skin and I'm a white male, I may have more privilege than you, but watch how I act. And then when you walk into a room full of poor white kids who, by the way, they blend in with the other groups because they're poor, but the black and browns are over here. So now they're, okay, well, there's nobody to speak to my condition. And you walk into a room and you grew up poor, immediately they open up to you because you're speaking to what it is that my condition, where I am in my life. Now imagine if all of the white men who said that then got proximate and just let them kids see them. I can be a Jim, I can be a Nick, I can be a whoever. You came for me and you didn't make it about you. You came for me, my struggles. I didn't eat today. You could feed me. Don't care about your background. You can get in your Porsche or whatever and go home, live in your palatial estate, but you fed me. You came for me because I look like you. I walk like you. I talk like you. We share the same blood. That matters. So everyone matters here, white, black, male, whatever. We got to get away from that. Our country needs unity. If you are a human being, life will punch you. No one's exempt.
And here it is, too. I want to just add this one. I know we're going crazy here. They're going crazy here.
I know. You started.
I'm on fire. Listen, I want to add this, and I'll keep it short. And to go, because, man, me and Tyrone, we're like tag team wrestlers right now. Listen, I'm going to add one more thing for you white people out there, and I love y'all. But this is what happened. This is where they got y'all. When all the very few amount of white people own the property and own the plantations. So when the plantations came to town, it seems like white people would be happy. Why? Because they would get jobs. But they fooled y'all on day one. They're like, listen, you can't have a job picking cotton. You can't have a cotton picking union, none of that. Blacksmith, nope, nothing. But you're white, and so that's great. But we got these darkies here that we bought, and they're animals. They're less than human, but you're great. But what those white people should have done, the poor white people should have been like, take this ship, take it back to Africa. And what we're going to do is you're going to give us jobs, or we're going to burn your fucking plantation down. And that's where poor white people up on day one. They should have seen that and been like, this doesn't make sense. How am I inferior? But I don't have no teeth. And you live in this plantation, you got these fine carriages and these fine women, and you bring in all these people from Africa who are really taking the jobs that we could have. So they bamboozled poor white people on day one. And if I taught history, that would be the first history lesson. That I could do a song. They didn't let white people pick cotton, and I think I'm going to write it.
Yeah, listen. We got to wrap it up. I think I could keep going with you two forever. I mean, we've done this 3 or 4 times now, and I'd like to do it every week. But just to sort of wrap it up on music, as my friend Elizabeth was just telling me, poor white people not having a platform is how we got Insane Clown Posse.
Yeah.
Well, then you know what? They needed to be heard. You know, it's not how it's how we got Donald Trump.
Well, that's an insane clown for sure.
That's
an insane clown for sure.
Insane clown posse, Donald Trump. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's true.
Listen, I mean, we got to wrap this, right, Jim?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming in. It's super fun.
Man.
I can listen to you guys all
Hey, man,
day.
these guys,
All
yeah,
day.
Tyrone Rock.
Tyrone, we got to find a coffee shop in Orange County, and we'll meet halfway once you get over
Absolutely.
here and you get settled.
Let's do it. Like everybody, if you can, remember it is Veterans Day here in the U.S. There are 15,000 veterans in the U.S. that are living in places that the Veterans Association said is unfit for human habitation. If you can, please feed the homeless, and especially our homeless veterans. I appreciate you all.
Man, thank you. That's beautiful. You reminded me. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, y'all.
Great talking.
Peace out.
Thanks,
Later.
guys.
We'll see you soon.
All right, see you.